Hey friends, it's Becky here and welcome back to my channel and welcome back to a new video. I have very strange setting right now for filming because I am filming in my bedroom actually because we have a visitor coming here for a couple weeks, and that's also why I'm probably gonna give you a little bit of ASMR talking because I never film when there are other people in a house. I always try to film when my flatmate is at work or when she's away, but now the house is kind of full and I don't really have another option for filming, but I feel very weird filming when there are other people in the house. So I'm trying to be a little bit quieter, so hopefully you're fine with that. Anyway, today is also special for me because I'm trying to film a first, I think I never done this before, but sort of like first reading vlog where I will try to record my process of reading two different books, because in my victober video I mentioned that one of the books I'm planning to read for victober is The Picture of Dorian Gray and also Frankenstein, and I never read these books before, but I heard they're amazing and I was so excited to read them. So I thought it might be quite fun and interesting to just try record the whole process. But to be honest, I already started to read Frankenstein and I read the first two volumes, and I just did not film anything in between because I just got so immersed into the story that I just absolutely loved it and I did not want to stop reading. So now I'm going to be talking about the first two volumes which I read, and I really hope you will enjoy it. And also why I still you have here, because this is sort of like free vlog video maybe. I was also thinking to ask you how are you doing and how is your victober and october going and what are you reading, and also how are you doing in general. And also I wanted to say very quick little thank you because I actually passed 500 subscribers the other day on my channel, and to me it's a massive milestone, so thank you very much to everyone who is here. And yeah, if there is anything you would like to say in the comments, how have you been these past couple months, or how is autumn in your place, because for example here the weather is absolutely mental because Scotland, and one day when I filmed the footage, I think you already seen, I already put it in the video, so it was very lovely and sunny and warm, and then the next day it started to rain and it's been raining for past couple days right now, so very crazy. Let me know how is your weather, and without further ado I will just say to you a little bit about the Frankenstein I've been reading because oh my goodness, I've been loving it so much. So for Frankenstein I'm reading this Calling Classics books, and I think this is actually the very first Calling Classics I am reading because I never really owned any book from these publishers, and I do like the size because it's very easy to carry with you if you're going somewhere, but the font for me is way too small. Honestly, I try not to use my glasses all the time when reading, but with this book I really need to because it's way too small for me. But anyway, other than that, I really like this little edition Collins Classic and it's my first experience, as I just said. And when it comes to story, oh my goodness, I got so immersed in the story from the very first pages, and so far to me it seems like it's really story within story within story, because at first we basically were introduced to this character who is sending letters to his sister, and through him we realized that he met a man called Victor Frankenstein on his journey on the ship, and then Victor starts to tell his story, and then later on what happened is that basically through his talking there was the creature he created, as everyone knows, and the creature is telling his story, and it's something I really like. And also I really admire that basically Mary Shelley was 19 years old when she was writing this book, and just the fact that she came up with idea for the book like this, you know, about monster or creature being created by a human being, and just the general idea of the story is amazing for her age. But also the fact that the way she decided to write the book, tell the story within story within story, and not just simply say, you know, oh, this is what happened. I found it very fascinating. So far I love the characters and the whole writing style. I underlined a couple sentences already, and I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I believe it was for the victober, that I already started to read this concrete book several years ago when I was still in primary school, I think, but because this is well, it counts into classics, the way it was written, and because I got this book in English, obviously for me at that age it was very difficult to read the book, so I gave up after maybe 1 or 2 chapters because I was not really able to keep up with the language, and since then I have not seen any film adaptation very much, or I haven't read the story properly, so I did not know what to expect when I started to read this book. I knew only the basic premise, that there is some character of Victor Frankenstein and some sort of monster, but I think that I was one of those people who had the what is misconception, or like I had the idea somewhere in my mind that the Frankenstein is the name of the monster, which in the same time I knew it was not true, but I think that there are many people who have this sort of feeling in the back of their mind if they do not know the story, and that was my case as well. So about the story so far, if you do not know this very much, as I did not know either, basically, as I briefly mentioned, there is the character of Robert, hope is his name, I completely slipped out of my mind, who is writing letters on the voyage at the ship to his sister back home, and he writes about how he is lonely because he doesn't really have any companion, and then suddenly he comes across this man who was found in a smaller boat or smaller ship, and that's Victor Frankenstein, and he is in very much wretched condition of his body and on his mind, and this man takes care of him, and Victor tells him his story, what is actually happening. And now I'm in the volume 2, or I finished the volume 2, and already the creature has been created. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil anything for anyone, so just basic premise, because we know that Victor Frankenstein is actually the man who was always fascinated with science, and back home there is his cousin, as he called her, but they are not actually related. It's a little girl his family took in, and they grow up together, and I believe they are in love. I believe there will be something like that happening, but I don't know yet, so it's not spoiling. And he calls her cousin, or they call each other cousin, and they are writing letters together, and he went to study to a different place, a different town, and he was so fascinated by science that he created this monster, as is well known for everyone. So already in the volume 2 the monster is created, and he is basically wandering around the place, because Victor, he was so frightened of what he created that he abandoned the creature, or the monster, or creature at this point, and he returned back home, but then the creature was kind of following him, and he was trying to learn what does it mean to be a human being, I would say. And then there were parts when he was the creature, when he was watching the villagers or cottagers family, and he was trying to make a closer contact with them, but because he was so frightened that they will not accept him because of his looks, because previously the creature obviously had experiences that when someone noticed him, people were always too scared, and they you know, attacked him and tried to kill him. So he was watching this family only from the distance, and that's all what I'm gonna say because I don't want to spoil anything to you. One more thing I wanted to say is that so far I am very moved by the creature's character and the tenderness he possesses, and I do understand the desires of, you know, being in a closer contact with other human beings, because he feels very much lonely and separated. So I'm very, very much excited to see how this is gonna happen, because yes, it's so good. Honestly, I love it so much. Well, I hope the lighting is not the horrific, but I don't really have a place to sit because our visitor is still here a couple days later. So I did finish the Frankenstein last night, and oh my goodness, it was so good. The chapter 6 in the volume 3, it made me gasp so much, and there were things I did not see coming. And I'm trying to think how to tell you about this story without spoiling anything for you, but oh my goodness, it was so good. Like, I told you so far what the story is about, and now there was obviously the relationship part happening and developing, which I don't want to spoil anything, so this is all what I'm gonna say, but you know what I'm talking about, the relationship of two characters. And then there was something big happening, like the accident, and the tragic accident, and I'm like, oh my goodness, no. And it earned it right to be you know, nominated in one of the best books of all times, because as I said, I had no clue what to expect when I started to read it, and I loved it so much. I read it within a couple days, which is, I mean, it's not a thick book, but still for me usually reading takes more than just 3 or 4 days to finish a book. So I absolutely loved it, and I would say that for me the biggest thing was the relationship between the monster and its creator, and the two different point of views. So basically the monster, one of the things monster asked his creator to do was to create another creature, but a female creature. So the Frankenstein creature, I don't want to call him monster, but the creature or being would not be alone throughout the life, because loneliness was something that was really still with him, and he was so, you know, sad and lonely, and he wanted someone to share just the companionship, but it was not possible with human beings, with people, because no one would take him in because of his looks and how scary he looked like. So he asked Victor Frankenstein, his creator, to create another creature, female creature for him, and he refused because Frankenstein believed that, well, there were some awful things that happened and you caused the awful things and you done the awful things. So where is the guarantee that if I create another creature like yourself, that there will be not, you know, worse things happening, and that you two will do more harm together? Hope it makes sense. So he refused, and on one hand I absolutely understand the point of view of Frankenstein tried to protect people he loves and protect the human beings, and also being so shocked from what he did and hating himself on one part, but in the same time I absolutely understand the creature's desires to be accepted and live with human beings, and also in the same time the things he did, which I'm not gonna say because I don't want to spoil it, but yes, sometimes like, oh my goodness, please don't, but he did those things, and I'm not justifying it in any way, but in the same time I think I do have understanding why he acted the way he acted, and also I think that's why the book is so good, because as I mentioned in my previous videos when I was reading about some characters who have sort of good and bad sides in those, I do love these kind of stories because we all have something good and something bad in us, and I hate when the characters are portrayed to be just purely, you know, angels or just evils for the sakes of being evil, and have some bad characters in the story. But in these two you can clearly see the good and wrong sides of both characters, and why are they acted, and why are they thinking what are they thinking and doing things they do. So yes, I love this story. Where is the book? This one. Boom. Sorry. Okay, I'm back. So if you haven't read Frankenstein yet, same as I didn't before, do yourself a favor and read it, because it's absolutely wonderful. It's creepy at times. I would say this is my first horror book I finished, although it's not like properly horror book. I know the people who read horrors on the regular basis would consider this to be nothing, but for me it was creepy and definitely played a lot with my feelings, because I genuinely cared for the characters, all of them, literally all of the characters, even the friend of Frankenstein who also had the destiny there, which was not the happiest. I felt so bad and so sad for him. So characters development amazing, the descriptions and the writing style wonderful, and I would say that now I managed to read the whole book through, obviously, which is some little victory I consider to achieve, because obviously, as I mentioned, I was not able to read this book properly for the first time because my language skills were not at the level that would allow me to finish a book like this, but now I finished it, so I'm very happy about that as well. But I must confess that there are still a couple words in English which I heard for the very first time and I probably don't even remember them. But yeah, wonderful experience. So that would be the first book actually in this little vlog. I hope it's going well, because I never really done things of filming different parts for the video and then putting them together. I usually have one sit-down video, so hopefully this is gonna work out. But I also started to read The Picture of Dorian Gray the other day, because I finished this one, and right after that I started to read The Picture of Dorian Gray, and I love that story so much. So I'm gonna keep reading it, and I will let you know soon what I think of it and how far I got, because yeah, it's so good. Honestly, this victober, it's just a couple days past in victober, but I'm already reading 2 books and I just love it so much. So please let me know how is your victober going, or even October reading, because I know there are so many things happening in October and readathons. And when I was watching booktube the other day, I realized so many people were participating in different readathons, something like Goth-ober, like reading gothic literature only, or like horror stuff. So please let me know what is it you're participating and what are you reading, because so many good things are happening. Yay! Okay, wait, there was one more thing I wanted to say about this book. First of all, well, 2 actually. First of all, if you know any good film adaptation, for the Frankenstein, please let me know in the comments, because with my flatmate we watched Young Frankenstein by Mel Brooks, and it's a parody sort of like, so we watched that one. It was hilarious and I loved it because I really do like Mel Brooks movies and filmmaking. He used to do quite a lot of comedies back in 70s and 80s, and I absolutely love it. And also, if you're looking for some lovely spooky funny thing, you can also watch Young Frankenstein by him, watch Young Frankenstein by him, but also he made this parody of Dracula, which I forgot the English title, but I will put the picture here so you can watch those. And then the second thing I wanted to point out throughout the whole book: where is Igor and who is Igor? How the character of Igor, how you pronounce it in English, I would say Igor, how did he came to life? Please someone explain it. There is no such character as Igor in this book, but in every single, you know, when there was a movie adaptation, because as I said, I never seen like the proper whole film adaptation of Frankenstein or read anything, but it's such a famous character that you do have different you know, different movies use this one. For example, in Van Helsing movie there was also a character of Igor, and then the creature, and then the Frankenstein as well. And then in different parts it's very well known that Igor is basically helping to Victor Frankenstein, and he is not here. So can someone explain to me please what's the big deal with Igor, because he is not in the book and I want to know how did he appear in the story of Frankenstein, because yes. So thank you very much, and I will get back to you with my thoughts on the picture of Dorian Gray. Hello my friends, so saying hello again from my room. I never know if to film intros for this kind of videos because I don't know how to edit it yet, so this is a very strange concept for me to record this reading vlogs, but anyway, if I don't try I won't learn, so we'll see how this goes. So I am saying hello to you after a couple days because I have been reading The Picture of Dorian Gray, as I mentioned that I am intended to, and oh my goodness, it's so good. Honestly, this victober is, oh my gosh, so far the two books, Frankenstein and now The Picture of Dorian Gray, I'm reading. I absolutely loved Frankenstein, as you already know because I told you. And now The Picture of Dorian Gray, I started to read it and I cannot put the book down. So right now I have only 60 pages left, I think, and there is like 260 pages or something. So I already read 200 pages within 2 days or something because, yes. So yeah, you can see I'm just way too excited and went too hyper about these books. So anyway, the reason why I started to read Picture of Dorian Gray is that I wanted to read it already last victober, but I somehow did not get to it. And then when I was doing the quiz video, it also mentioned one of the results of one of the tests I did was that this book should match my personality. So I was even more curious to read this book, and already in the quiz after the results was revealed, I felt like it's just not true, and it is not. So far, definitely it's not so far. After 200 pages I read, I absolutely disagree with the results of the quiz. But anyway, I love the writing style and I haven't read anything else by Oscar Wilde, but I need to do a little bit research in his writing and in his books or plays or whatever, because I do not know much about this author actually in general. So I do want to do some research, and there are some more books I definitely want to read them because I absolutely love the way he writes. And if maybe you have some recommendations for his books or plays or writings in general, please let me know because I would definitely love to explore it. Yes. So anyway, without further ado, The Picture of Dorian Gray is a story of which I knew so little, as I basically did know about the Frankenstein. The only thing I knew was the fact that there should be some man and there has some thing going on with his portrait. Apparently it should be growing old instead of him, and that's basically all I knew. And I must say that within the first chapter I absolutely love all the characters. In the first chapter we met the character of the painter who painted the picture of Dorian Gray, and also Lord Henry, who is the close friend of the painter. And they two have a dialogues about, you know, discussing what the beauty is, and then he shows him the portrait he's working on, and Lord Henry is so amazed by the beauty of young men that he wants to meet him. So when the Dorian Gray arrives to the city for the portrait again, they all three introduce each other, and Lord Henry becomes a close friend with Dorian Gray. And I must say now retrospectively that at first I absolutely loved the character of Lord Henry because he had very much like cynical humor. And there was one comment he did, actually let me see if I can find it because I'm reading this on my phone. I have a Picture of Dorian Gray as ebook, so I want to see if I can find it. But just in a way he was talking and then making cynical comments and points. I absolutely loved it. And there was one which he did about a woman who was you know, sort of like knowing everything about everyone and wasn't very nice, and sort of I assume people were making fun of her behind her back. And he said, yes, she is a peacock in everything but beauty. And if you understood the concept of what he was talking about, it just made me laugh out loud so much. So at first I absolutely love his comments and his characters and how witty he was and funny, and also he seems to be very much, you know, like read a lot of books and know a lot. But then page by page he started to be a little bit annoying to me, and then I was like, okay, that's enough. Because honestly his opinions on marriage and women and everything, I'm like, I don't like you anymore. And then he also had a very bad influence on Dorian Gray, as I later discovered. So, oh, actually I have my notes here, I can have a look. So, yes, that's one part of the story, and basically from the first chapter I felt very much captured in the story, as I mentioned. And later through the story we discover more of the character of Dorian Gray, and then he is in love with this actress, and I'm a very sentimental person and always up for lovely love story in the movie, or in the books, sorry. And as I was reading it, obviously I was very much suspicious that something bad is going to happen, because it was just going way too well for me, and I'm like, there is something about to happen, and it did, and it was horrible, and it made me literally gasp so much. So yeah, absolutely great writing, which really keeps me hooked. Right now I am at the point when it's much later, because then I felt there were a couple chapters, or like maybe one chapter, when basically a couple years passed and Dorian Gray was getting worse and worse in his behavior. And oh yeah, obviously I completely forgot to mention the painting. So yes, the painting was finished in very first chapters. Sorry. The painter finished the painting, and then basically through looking at the painting and the comments Lord Henry was making on Dorian's beauty, and he was very much made him aware how beautiful he is, Dorian started to see his own beauty in himself, because I feel like before that even the painter pointed out that he used to be this beautiful yet very humble and gentle and kind of like shy young man, and he really loved his friendship with him. But then after Lord Henry was constantly talking to Dorian about how precious it is to be young and how important it is to enjoy youth while we are still young, and that's also one of the reasons why I do not like Lord Henry very much, because he is one of those people. Again, I understand that the time period when this was written, that's probably the majority of the opinion men used to have on women or marriage or whatever, right? I get it. But reading it now, obviously, I'm like, not for me. Anyway, and he was pointing out how important it is to enjoy doing things whilst you can, whilst you are young. And also I understand, again, that in the times the book was written, or in that time period, people, first of all, they did not used to live very long, and then if they did, because of the medical you know, resources and treatments, they probably, once they were old, pretty much it might have been sort of like the end of life. I understand that, but in the same time I don't like the idea that the book would share a message that being young is only thing that is important in life, and after you pass a certain age you are basically done. Also, there is a very lovely book which is absolutely unrelated to this one, but I read this book in March this year, yes, this year, and I loved it so much. And it's called I May Be Wrong, and I mentioned it in one of my previous videos, but it just came to my mind because it's an example of a book how someone can basically turn the whole life around after they are like 40 or 50. So this is unrelated to Picture of Dorian Gray, but if you would like to check the book, I will also link the video down below, and I have it in chapters so you can find it about this book, and it's autobiography actually, and it's wonderful. Anyway, back to the story. So what was I saying? Yes, so Lord Henry and his opinions about the beauty, and basically through this Dorian was aware of how beautiful he is, and then he felt very much pressured about the picture, and he made a wish that the picture would be growing old instead of him, because he did not want to grow old. So that's basically the whole premise, but I'm hoping that by saying this I'm not giving away too much, but that's basically, I think, the one thing everyone knows about the story, even if they do not read it or haven't read it yet. So hopefully there is no spoilers for you. And right now I'm in the part of the story where Dorian Gray already has his picture in the hidden room in the house, and then the painter, after many years now, I believe Dorian Gray is like 38 years old, the painter came to visit him before he left to Paris. And for those of you who read the book, you know what happened, and it made me gasp so much, and I could not breathe during that part, and I'm like, oh my goodness, why? And right now that's where I stopped reading, and I very much cannot wait to get back to reading because I want to know what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna stop recording here, and I will get back to you with the hopefully finished book. I'm hoping I could finish it today, and then I can freshly minded can speak about the book again. See you! Hello my friends, it's Becky here, and welcome to the probably last part of this vlog. I finished reading The Picture of Dorian Gray yesterday, and it was absolutely strange experience, but very good one obviously, because yesterday there was what's the word in English? Basically the electricity went off in the whole building, and just as I was reading very interesting part of the story, the light started to flash in the house, so I'm like, okay, that's interesting, and I was home alone at the time, so that was kind of funny experience. But I finished the book. It was good. I had it as ebook actually on my phone because we did not have electricity until this morning, so I would not be probably able to continue unless it would be with candles, which would be difficult but maybe pretty cool. So I finished the book, and I must say that the last 60 pages which I had remaining were quite interesting, but to be fair, it wasn't that what's the word? So so it wasn't that dramatic as I thought it would be. There was one incident when Dorian Gray was followed by one of the characters who was threatening his life, and again, no many details because I don't want to spoil it for you. So that was interesting part, which for a second I was holding my breath during that part, but then it happens to be okay. But then obviously the ending came, and for those of you who read the book, I would say that I suspected something like this will probably happen, or this is how the story will end, but still it not destroy my overall feelings from the book, because as I said, I really enjoyed the whole experience and the whole reading. So yeah, that's me done with 2 books for this Victober, and I would say that I'm very curious how I'm gonna feel about this book in a couple days, because obviously I will be doing my October or Victober wrap up, so I would like to see later on when I'll be preparing that video, and I will be briefly mentioning those books again, whether there will be some change in my opinion or if I have some more thoughts on or comments. Because also what I realized already with Frankenstein, which I just filmed in this video a couple days ago, the more time passes, the more I've been thinking of the character of Victor Frankenstein, and I feel like he's such a selfish person. But anyway, I'm not gonna going back to the Frankenstein now, because I feel like this video has been going on for ages anyway, but I will probably have some more thoughts once I do my proper wrap-up, so I'm gonna keep some space for that. But overall, I would say that both books for now were 5 stars for me out of 5. I really enjoyed the whole experience, and I don't remember being so immersed in books recently as I was with these 2, because I read them within few days, which is, as you know, I'm a slow reader, so it doesn't happen to me very often, but I really enjoyed the both books. And I think this will be the ending of my reading vlog. I hope you enjoyed this. This is the first time I was doing something like this, so I hope it worked out quite well. And as I said at the beginning, thank you very much to everyone who is here and who joined us recently, because I really appreciate it. And if there is anyone else who is considering to subscribe, please do so, because it will be lovely to have you here. And yes, please let me know your thoughts on these 2 books. If you read them, what do you thought of them? And also maybe about this reading vlog, if maybe you would like to see something more of this kind in the future, or rather not. And even those of you who do not have booktube channel and you are subscribers, just please leave a comment and we can chat in the comments, or just leave little, I don't know, pinkish flowers from the emoji, because I like them, so you can just leave it here so I know you were here. So that would be very lovely. Thank you very much for sticking with me until this point, and I will hopefully see you with another video very soon. Take care and have a lovely Victober. Bye bye.